If you have ADHD, watch this video. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was in the 4th or 5th grade. So I was about 10, 11, or 12 years old, around that age. And I remember starting to take Adderall. And I remember I had no clue what it was. All I knew was that my mom would put me in classes, like a once-a-week class where I would go with the people with my disorder. And I would be with them. And honestly, we would just like have fun as kids. Like, that's just what it comes down to, 10, 11, 12 years old. There wasn't much to do but play sports or, play video games or, something like that where, where we're just constantly doing something. All I truly wanted to do was do something, and this led to me getting into some trouble in school and everything like that. And we're going to get onto that later on in this video. For people with ADHD, I don't know. That's what they prescribed me with. I don't really know. I guess I do have it if they prescribed me with it. But I truly don't feel like that as of the man I am right now. So for my ADHD, I was prescribed Adderall. I'd say like 80% of people who have ADHD are on Adderall or, some type of medicine where they are like suppressed. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But I would check up with the doctor every month or so, or maybe every one month, 2 months, or whenever I run out of like the Adderall pills. And I would go to the doctor to see how I feel. She would check up on me, asking me how I'm feeling and everything like that. And like I said, while doing that, I was going with a group of kids, like every week. They'll have us doing like some activities and stuff. It was only for like about an hour, 2 hours, something like that. But for the most part, they were just like trying to like help us with our mental health or something like that. I remember always coloring and drawing and like doing all of that type of shit. So, but at this point, I'm like 11, 12. I'm like 10, 11, 12. I'm like an older kid now. I just want to play sports or I want to, go play video games. Or, at this time, video games had my mind racing all the time. So I was always playing video games or sports, soccer, basketball, competing, something like that. That's what I love to do. I love to be active. So now we're going to time lapse. So now I'm from like, I'd say, if I'm in the 4th, 5th grade now, I'm saying I'm like in the 6th, 7th grade. So I've been on these pills for a couple years now. And, I always felt some type of way, and we're going to get into like the side effects and everything that I felt being on Adderall. So I was on Adderall for a couple years, and I truly didn't feel good on it. I never felt like it benefited me, only for like the school aspect where I am in school, I am laser focused. But even then, I felt suppressed. I'm still in the 6th or 7th grade, around that time. And I remember taking it. I believe I started taking it like the end of 4th grade to 5th grade, because that is when I really remember being like on the honor roll and like, student of the month board. That's when I was the only time I was ever able to like accomplish that, because when you're taking Adderall, you are laser focused. Like that's all you care about. Is like, it's not all I care about. It's just like I was just so focused on school. Like that's all it was. Like the teacher, I could not take my eyes off the teacher or whatever she's talking about. I wasn't tired, sleepy, nothing like that. So I would just be like laser focused, and it did help my grades. And on top of that, I was going to like, I remember doing like homework club, where it was like after school, where, it's like a group of people, honestly, it's for parents whose kids are failing in school and, who don't do their homework. So they send them there after school. My mom sent me there for, I'd say like a year, 2 years. So I was always there, like after school, go do some homework and then hang out with my friends or something, right? I had no clue at this time of what anxiety was. But at that time, as I got older, I realized a lot of different things. I was like, that was the feeling that I was feeling at that time, where I was like very anxious. And I didn't know what this feeling was about. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know. I was just feeling anxious all the time. Like my stomach, it was like there was knots in my stomach where, I didn't feel good. And due to this, I didn't eat a lot. Like, my hunger wasn't there. I would eat my first, like, meal, right? It would be like a breakfast. I would always eat, like, 2 bananas and the oatmeal. My mom would be like, here, take these pills every morning. So I'm like, all right, bro. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm just like, okay, I got to go to school. Now I'm walking to school, whatever. And I go through school, and, like, school is like 3, 4, maybe even 5 hours before you get your lunch. Normally I'm, like, starving. I'm like, yo, where the fuck? I need to eat some food. I need to eat the school lunch. At this point, I would be at lunch and I wouldn't be hungry. I would just feel that anxious feeling all the time. And I didn't know what that feeling was. I never truly understood until I got older. So I'm feeling this feeling of like not being able to eat. So I'm not eating at all. And I'm just like, I'm getting the school lunch and I'm having it in front of me. I'm like, why am I not hungry? And it's in a bad way. Like, I'm viewing this in a bad way because, a lot of other people view this like, ooh, I should take Adderall so I can lose weight and shit. Like, no, starving yourself is not going to help you in your health. So I didn't know this, and it's not like I was starving, but like, I'm like, bro, I should be eating around this time. Like, this doesn't make sense. So as like weeks and months and years go by, like I'd say like 2 years before I really noticed, like, yo, this shit is fucking with me. Like, seriously, like, I'm not even hungry, you know, because when you're a kid, you're just like, hey, I'm not hungry, just keep it moving, right? I didn't realize this is like the side effect of taking Adderall and what it was, bro. And when I'm anxious, right, like at that point, like I'm feeling anxiety or whatever, like it's just like I was just wary about my surroundings and just like, why can't I eat? So when I'm anxious, I can't eat. Like the hunger's not there. You know, I'll be trying to force feed myself, like, and drink juice. So like, you know, I'll take a bite of the sandwich, drink juice so that I can, like, it goes down into my system. But I'm like literally feeling confused. I'm like, why am I not hungry? What the fuck? And I'm trying to force feed, and I'll only get like, I'll say like 50%, like half of the sandwich to like 75% of the sandwich done. And I'm like, bro, like this is a little ass sandwich. How can I finish the sandwich? Like I'm realizing this. And due to not being able to eat, I started to get really skinny, and I got, you know, I remember being called bony in school. I remember a lot of, you know, even my friends around the way, like we had nicknames for each other. Like, you know, it's like rude nicknames. I'm not gonna lie. Like they'll call me Bones, and like the other kid would be like we'll call them like fat ass, whatever. Like, you know, just like it was rude shit. But like as we got older, like all of that went away. But it was like, bro, like that was rude, and like, you know, it helped me. Like honestly, like, you know, a lot of people say like bullying isn't good and stuff like that. But if you get picked on for something that you can control, like, you know, your weight or like how you look, honestly, it should be better that you change and try to change. So as I got older, bro, I got my muscle up. Like, yeah, I'm working out in the gym all the time. I'm not worried about that. But at this time, being called bony, but like, you know, not realizing why I was skinny. Like, I'm like, bro, why am I losing so much weight? I didn't realize this. Like, I'm just moving. I'm just like a kid. I'm just keep going. I'm playing basketball after school with my friends. I'm doing my thing. Like, I don't really give a fuck about all of this shit. And quite honestly, I never really like liked school, everything like that. But like, since I got on those pills, I'm like, school's not so bad. I'm just like, you know, focused. I'm just so focused, whatever it is. Like, I remember just being bony and like just skinny in general. And like, you know, it didn't really faze me until like, I'm like, okay, like, well, let's put on some muscle, let's gain some weight and shit like that. But like, how are you going to put on weight if you can't eat, if you don't feel that, like, your body signaling like, yo, let's eat? So at a younger kid age, I was like always like, you know, 7th, 8th grade, I'm like, okay, now I need to put on some weight. Like, I'm asking a lot of people, like, how do you put on weight? Watching YouTube, doing my search things, you know, I'm starting to work out, do push-ups, but I'm like, bro, how do I gain weight? And they're like, you guys won't even believe the amount of fucking bullshit I've heard in my life about like how to gain weight. And like, bro, like, it's so bad. I remember asking I had like this therapist too. Like, he's like, you should eat like how they eat in jail. I'm like, how do they eat in jail? He's like, you got to get like these 2 things of ramen and then put it in with like tuna and this, that. And bro, I'm like, bro, these like 2-3 packs of ramen is full of sodium. Like, I didn't know this. I was doing that. I was eating that. I was trying to gain weight. Nothing was happening. I also felt like I was being suppressed. And by being suppressed, I felt like I was in the shell and I couldn't escape, right? Like, you know, like a turtle shell, like they just can't escape their shells. Or like, if you think of it, like, just think of you're in a box or like an elevator and you just cannot escape this shit. That's how I felt. Like, I felt like I was suppressed. I wasn't being who I was. And this is the biggest thing of taking these like medicines and these pills. The pills are for you to be like a whole different, like, it would change your personality. It would change who you are. Like, it's like, you know, prior to that, like, if you're a kid with ADHD, bro, you're going around asking people questions. Like, you know, you would have a conversation with strangers. You're not worried about any of that. You know, you're just more outgoing. You're having conversations. You know, you're playing games. Hey, kid, can I play with you? Like, I was always one of those kids, right? Like, a lot of kids, like, I remember even, like, having, like, introverted friends who were just, like, kids who were, like, scared to talk to people. They'd be like, yo, bro, can you go ask him this? Or, like, can you go get me like this sauce? Because, you know, some people are scared to like talk to like the McDonald's workers, like, hey, can I get like a barbecue sauce? Like, I remember always being that kid, like, always like, okay, I got you, but don't even worry about it. I was starting to be suppressed without me realizing this. Like I said, I started to realize this all as I got older, like, let's say freshman year, sophomore year, and I'm gonna start really getting into it. Like, I felt like I was being suppressed. Like I said, I was an outgoing kid. Now I'm like more of an introverted kid, like, you know, just like always like kind of like just anxious, kind of introverted. So like at this point, I wasn't very social. Like, I wasn't talking to a lot of people. Like, when you're just so focused, you're just like, your attention's not anything else. You just focused on school or just focused, because, you know, it would wear off, right? I remember even then after school, I would like, my mom would want me to take a pill, right? It would be like a different sort of Adderall. It would be Adderall, but like for the after school, like for the afternoon or some shit. And I'm like, bro, I don't even want to take this no more, right? So I'm just like, you know, I'm like, I'm good with the first thing. I'm not taking this shit after school. Like, I remember just, you know, I remember telling my mom, not in that way, just be like, man, I'm not taking this after school. Really, like, I'm sorry. And I can tell you, I knew when I was different when I got this quick story of like when I was in the 7th grade, right? Like, I remember being in this Spanish class, being so focused, right? Like, I always wanted to learn Spanish, everything like that. The teacher was like, she was pretty strict but cool, like a nun type teacher, some shit like that. I remember taking down notes. Like, nobody else was really doing this, but I remember just taking down notes, right? But I had my like notebook, right? Like, I had it like on my lap, but my legs were flipped inwards, like that, like one leg over the other. Like that's mostly how women like sit. And I'm there sitting like that. I remember one of the girls coming into the classroom and they were like, "Yo, why you sitting like that?" I'm like, sitting like what? I look down, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why am I sitting like this? Like, I don't sit like that, right? I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why am I sitting with my legs over? Like, you know, I felt like I was a fucking typewriter, like, nerd type of kid just writing in my notebook. Like, that was never me, right? And that's, like, a good thing for, like, academic-wise. But, like, I'm like, bro, like, that's not Patrick. Like, I'm, like, literally, at that point, right? Like, I remember going to lunch. I'm like, why was I sitting like that? Like, what the fuck? Like, that's not who I am. That's how I was feeling on Adderall. Like, Adderall was just not a good experience for me. Quite honestly, I'm gonna keep it real with you. So they tried to lower my dosage, right? So I was taking at least, I think it was 30 milligrams of Adderall, whatever. So then I'm like, I go to the doctor. I'm like, man, I need to stop. Like, this is not feeling good with me. Like, I'm trying to talk to the doctor. Like, this is not really good. And she was like, we could try lowering the dosage and everything like that. So I'm like, all right, let's try that shit. We go 20 milligrams, a few months go by, whatever. I'm like, bro, I'm still feeling the same way. And she's like, okay, we're going to go to the lowest dosage that we can get. And I believe that was 10 milligrams. So then I start taking that, and it was just all the same. I felt completely the same. I didn't feel good. I just felt like a fucking robot, like a guy who's just focused, but like it's just like not at my outgoing state of like who I am. Like, you know, it just felt weird for me, bro. So I felt like a robot. So by the time midway 8th grade year to like high school, I'm like, Mom, I'm not taking this shit no more. Like, I'm sorry. My mom's trying to go back and forth with me all the time, like every day, like, you better take this pill, everything like that. I'm like, bro, I'm not taking this shit. I'm sorry. And then I started to feel like how I was before, right? And we're going to get on to like how I am like as a person. But freshman year, like midway 8th grade, I stopped taking it. You know, maybe some days I remember some days taking it for like, oh, there was this big test that I was super scared of or some shit, right? I would take that for the test or whatever. And I remember my sister using it for her test and everything like that. She was older than me. And my mom was like, oh, this is the focus pill, so you should take it. And she was like, and my sister was like, almost, I remember my sister almost relying on that shit. Like, Mom, I need the pill. Like, I need it for this test or things like that. And I'm looking at him like at a person point of view. I'm like, man, I like me personally, like who I am in school. Like, I didn't really care because like, I'm not to say that I didn't give a fuck about school, but it was like a lot of the things I learned even from a younger age. I'm like, bro, this shit is not going to help me, right? I remember learning the Pythagorean theory at one point, and I'm like, this A squared plus B squared, all of this shit. I'm like, bro, this shit not gonna help me. So I'm like, you know, like my sister's freaking out because she's one of like the you know, like good kids in school, like the 100% good kids. And I'm like, you know, me and my sister were like the complete opposites, really. Like that's what I'm gonna get into, right? But like I said, I started getting off of this, right? Like I'm like, man, fuck this shit. I don't even want to take this shit no more. I'm losing weight. I feel like a fucking chicken wing ass dude. I don't feel myself. I don't feel like who Patrick truly is, right? So like I was saying, I was feeling suppressed, but then I'm like, man, fuck this shit. I found a way out of the box. And I was like, man, it's the pill that's fucking me up. So like at this point, like I am who I am, right? Like, you know, I was always a kid who was just not really focused on that school shit. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, I wasn't focused on it. And not to say that you shouldn't be, because if I could go back to time in school, I would like I'll put my pride into getting good grades. Like that's what I would do if I were to go back to school. I can't even lie to you. I used to get into a lot of trouble due to me not being able to focus, right? And I remember like if you guys would see my overall school of like how many times I got into trouble, right? Like freshman year, I was getting a lot of detentions, a lot of like write-ups, even a good amount of like out of school suspensions, right? But then when sophomore year hit, it turned into another level. And junior year too, and my senior year was online, but like my junior year too was like all like suspensions, in-school suspensions, out-school suspensions, detentions. I wasn't even going to that shit. So if you don't go to like a detention, then you get like a in-school suspension, and if you don't go to that, you get suspended for like 3 days. But like I always went to the in-school suspensions. But like main point is like I'm getting in a lot of trouble. From this point, I would at least be like in trouble every fucking day, every week. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, getting kicked out of class. I was like the kid that always cracked jokes. Like my friends were in my class too, so like, you know, me and him would always crack jokes. Somebody joins in, boy, your ass ugly as shit. You know, that type of kid. Some funny shit. Like, you know, as a kid, I wasn't as more mature. I would say like from 15, 16, 17. From 17 on, I started to become more mature, especially 18. But like, you know, at that time, from like those 3-4 years was pretty fucking rough. I'm not gonna lie. I would crack jokes, get up. I remember, like, you know, sometimes just, like, even just being in class, I'm like, man, I don't even want to be here. So I just get up when the teacher's talking. I would just walk to, like, the window and, like, look outside the window. Like, I remember putting down the window and just looking outside the window, just, like, getting some fresh air. And everyone's, like, you know, they kind of look at me, but then they look back at the teacher and shit. You know, because, like, I was just, like, a kid who always did what he wants. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I'm not proud of, like, all of the things that I've done, but I'm going to keep it straight up to you. Like, I was a kid who did what he wanted, like you weren't gonna tell me something, right? Like on some stupid shit. Like the teacher would be like, sit down, like, you know, whatever. And I would just, like, quite honestly completely ignore and just, like, you know, I remember the kids being outside for, like, gym class. I'm like, you know, I'm seeing them, you know, play and shit and everything like that. So I'm just, like, looking outside and I'm getting some fresh air. And after she's done rambling, I'm like, damn. And then I just go sit down again, like, where, you know, it's like a continuous process where it would happen every single day. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I couldn't lie. Like I said, I would even skip class. I would just, you know, be by the bathroom hallways with my friends or whatever, or just, like, walk. You know, I remember just skipping class to the point where I'll ask the teacher, can I use the bathroom? And if she said no, right? Like, let's say she says no. I'd be like, all right, teach, I'm out of here. I just take my bag, walk out of the classroom, and I would literally, like, I'm into, like, the things that are more physical, right? So I would go to, like, the weight room, and I would go in there and just, like, go hit some pull-ups until, like, one of the gym teachers was like, hey, what are you doing here? And I'm just like, I'm just working out, just, you know, kind of thing. Sometimes they would let me, and sometimes they wouldn't even be there, so I'm in there chilling, right, until my next period, right? So, like, say if she didn't say no, if she said no, okay, I'm out of there. But if she said yes, right, okay, you can go to the bathroom, I'm still doing it. I'm going to the bathroom, boom, and then when there's, like, I can see, like, there's 5 minutes left in class, I'll come back. They're like, where have you been, this, that? I'm like, man, I was taking, like, you know, my stomach was hurting, you know, just bullshitting, right? Can't lie, that's who I was. I was in a lot of trouble because of, like, I started to realize as I got older, like, this age, even, like, last year, I was like, man, I was in a lot of trouble because I could not just focus. I could just not sit down. These people were, you know, I wasn't glued to the things that I didn't like, and we're gonna get into that. I used to skip class, everything like that, but I started to realize this one thing, like, this one important thing about this whole thing about ADHD, right? I can focus really good, like 100% good, on the things I actually give a fuck about, like the things that I truly care about. That's the whole thing about this, right? A lot of these things, I remember being in class one day and hearing the teachers talk about, like, some shit from history, like some old shit from, like, the 1400s and shit. And I didn't even remember what they were talking about. I just remember it being, like, the years 1400. I'm like, why the fuck am I, like, I don't really care about this. It's not about to help me in real life get this money. So I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, you know, let's just even try to listen to this shit. Like, I know it's not beneficial for me, but let's try to listen. And I remember sitting down, just looking at the teacher. You know, not trying to look away, you know, like, because when we have ADHD, like, we look away, like, you know, to things, or, you know, try to talk to someone, or just something, right? Leg moving, whatever. I'm like, no, let's sit 100%, let's focus. I'm sitting down, and I'm trying my best to focus, like, 100% in. But I felt as if I literally couldn't. Like, I'm like, man, fuck this. Like, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, wait, why can't I sit down? Like, why can't I just sit down? And I'm thinking like that. And then I eventually just go up to, like, the fucking window again. Like I said, and I'm just looking outside, catching a breather or whatever. And I'm just like, why can't I sit down? Why can't I listen? Like, and I start to be like, wow, okay, that's what, like, that Adderall truly did for me. So I see both perspectives at this point. My grades were, like, probably all F's. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, a lot of people be like, how didn't you get, like, expelled? Like, no, I wasn't getting expelled. I would pass, and a lot of the times I would have to take summer school. So from freshman year, I took summer school. Sophomore year, I took summer school. Every year in high school, I just realized I took summer school. And I had to pay, like, a couple hundred, like, 300, 400 per class. Like, I remember that. And that was coming out of my pocket. I was looking at both perspectives, and I'm like, wow, like, I see what I can do when I'm on the pill, and when I'm off of it. I'm low-key out of whack. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I remember even just keeping it with myself, like, real with myself. Like, you literally can't focus. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I started to realize, like, if it was something I cared about, that I truly liked, and, you know, I was all in on it, I would literally shut up and sit still for hours on end. I can listen to you for ages, right? Let it be about health, money, fitness, sports, gym, just things that I do, like, in my everyday life that is actually gonna benefit me in my life. Stuff more physical, I can listen for as long as you want me to. 3 hours, I'll sit there and listen. If it's not about the things that I actually care about, or I think it's important, things like, I would literally just be looking around like, man, fuck this shit, you know, and just flame my friend, like, you know, crack jokes on him or whatever, you know. And then that led to me getting into so much trouble. This is the problem that I have nowadays, right? Like, everyone says that, oh, I have ADHD disorder, I have this now, because, you know, quite honestly, because they're fucking robots, where, to the point where they can't put their phone down. They always have to be on the phone, or, like, you know, the social media, like, things like tablets, iPhones, MacBooks, all stuff like that, this leads them to be robots, right? Like, their attention span is so fucked up because of the dopamine receptors are just out of whack. Because they're on TikTok all day, because they're on Instagram all day, because they're getting so much dopamine rushes from the video games on their phone, or just all sorts of things, that they literally can't sit still, right? Compare that to somebody who's like me, where I'm not like that. I don't want to be on my phone. I want to be outside, really, as of right now, really getting money, or just like really doing something beneficial, like gym, something that's going to help me. Other people are always trying to say, oh, I have ADHD because of this, that, and the third, because I can't focus, I can't do this, I need to go on Adderall, I need to do this, I need to do that. One, you have to actually get diagnosed for this shit, honestly. And two, just get off these apps for a little while, see how you feel, actually see how you feel. Because if you have the disorder, like, you literally can't stop moving sometimes. You're thinking in your mind, okay, let's stop moving. Like, the thing is, you have to tell yourself in the mind, okay, let's stop moving. Okay, let's actually pay attention. Okay, let's sit down. Like, you have to, like, low-key tell yourself that. And I'm not trying to say this like we're Ed, or like, like people like who are diagnosed with this shit are like slow or whatever. Like, I don't feel slow. I feel like a regular person, but like, if it's not to this bullshit, like that you're teaching me some bullshit, I don't give a fuck about that shit, honestly. Like, I don't. It's led to me getting into a lot of trouble, everything like that, but I had to learn from the shit, honestly. I had to learn from all of this. That shit if it didn't matter to me, I didn't give a fuck about it, bro. I'm on to my thing that I wanted to do. And that led to me being like, having my personality as honestly a leader. If my friends all said, oh, I wanted to go play tennis. Let's say they wanted to play tennis or football. I'm like, man, I don't want to play that shit. I'm going to go to basketball. Even if I'm by myself, I'm walking away from that group of people. And whoever is with me is with me. And whoever's not, I don't care. I'm still going to go play basketball because that's what I like to do. So actually work on your dopamine and actually just like cutting it all out. Like, for me right now, I'm on like my monk mode phase where like I'm only making videos, doing my thing, editing, everything like that. But like, I'm not listening to so much music. I'm not on social media. I deleted my social medias, and like, I'm restoring my dopamine receptors where to the point where I'm like, I can sit and have a conversation with people. Most people can't go to a certain place without being on their phones. You can't have a conversation with somebody who's on their phone all day, literally, because they'll look at you, yeah, texting. Yeah, texting, or doing something else, like just texting on the phone, just something like a fucking robot. They'll be walking across the street like a fucking highway. They're still on their phone like a dumb fuck. Like, like a lot of people would go to the ghetto, right? Go to the city. They'll still be on the phone with headphones on, with the fucking on their phone, walking in the middle of the hood, like you won't get robbed, like a dumb fuck. Like, like that's just what it comes down to. So don't claim to have ADHD if you're really not diagnosed with this shit. A lot of people try to like make it seem like, oh, I have ADHD, so like cut me slack. Like, shut up, bro. Like, you're a bitch. Honestly, I remember getting cut slack for that shit. Like, in school, I remember like they'll do this thing like, I forgot what it's called, like in school, where they would like let me slide for certain things because of this shit. And I'm like, bro, why the fuck you doing that? I remember telling my mom, like, why they trying, like, don't play me like I'm Ed or something, like, don't play me like I'm stupid, because I'm not. I remember saying this shit as a young kid, bro, like that I remember like actually just thinking about this just now. This shit used to get me angry. I'm like, yo, don't play me like I'm Ed. Like, I'm not going to the, like, I'm sorry, like, I'm not going to the special classes because I don't see myself as that. I'm not Ed. I feel like everyone else. Like, don't try to cut me out and, label me as this and that. Like, nah, don't play me like that, bro. I remember as a kid feeling that way, bro. And to the people who are really just trying to be down, oh, I have ADHD, cut me slack, man, you bitch. Like, you pussy, bro. Like, I remember being the kid not wanting to get cut slack for this shit. I didn't. I remember just like, yo, don't say that. Like, don't do that. Like, I remember telling teachers, like, oh, teacher tried to tell me, oh, since you have this thing or that, since you can't focus or something. I'm like, nah, don't do that. Don't play. I remember saying this to the teachers, like, don't play. Like, no, I don't like that. Don't cut me slack. I'm like everyone else, bro. Don't play me like I'm not Ed, like, like diagnosed. Because if you think of something like you're diagnosed with like autism or just something like that, like, that's completely different levels from having ADHD. Like, completely different levels. Like, don't play me like that, bro. And that's a big thing. Sorry for the rant, but as I got older, I felt like I outgrew this, right? It got hot as hell. I remember working at this spot, and it was just basically a daycare for kids and everything like that, which was cool. I remember taking care of kids, and I actually liked the job. I loved doing it. But there was certain kids, I'm not gonna lie, from like, I was taking care of like 3-year-olds to 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, around there, nothing more than that. But the 3-year-olds were fine, everything like that. But then I remember, like, when I was watching the 5-year-olds, it was like one kid, like, where it was like, I was like, yeah, I know, like, this is symptoms, like, that was me when I was younger, like, that was literally me. no funny shit. For a little girl her age, she was actually going crazy. Like, she wasn't listening. She would just do what she wants, and more times than not, she was just chilling most of the time, just doing what she wants. But when other kids are coming around her trying to take away things from her, this, that, she's like, hey, not playing. Like, she would try to fight them, you know, like shit like that. Don't touch it, you know, like, but this is a child, you know, like. And also, I understand the upbringing of the kid. I could tell, like, you know, the parents and shit like that. But, like, I could tell, like, I could relate. I was like, yo, that's low-key how I was when I was a baby. Like, when I was a youngin', like, just like a 5-year-old kid, just, like, you know, just being super hyperactive. You know, I remember there was, like, bedtime in kindergarten and everything like that. I remember me actively not going to sleep. I'm not trying to go to sleep. I'm trying to go play. Like, you know, all the teachers always trying to get mad at me when I was a younger kid and everything like that. That's just what it was. And I remember seeing this kid, I was like, wow, that's like merely me when I was a kid. I could just remember. And like I said, I low-key outgrew this. I'm not trying to put anything towards my head that is negative. I'm not going to lie to you. I can't fuck with that. You know, I'm not taking away power from myself of who I am. And I got this honestly from Andrew Tate, right? Like, I haven't realized anything about, like, you know, myself being on ADHD or you're just super active or just super like this or that. No, I didn't realize that. I didn't give a fuck about that. Like, for these past years, ever since I stopped taking it, I never used it as an excuse. Ever since I stopped taking Adderall, I never used anything as an excuse. I am who I am. I take full accountability for how I act now. So, like, you know, it was like a mind change of me maturing, growing older. Like, that's what it really came down to me, just, like, getting older. Like, yo, you can't act a certain way. You can't do these certain things like how you were once in high school, acting like a kid, everything like that. And, you know, and I would say after, like, 18, I would say, like, when I turned 18, you know, where I had all of these priorities, you know, I would wake up. So I remember doing that. I remember just, like, growing up, I'm like, you know, you just can't act how you act. You just realize things, right? Like, as you grow up, you become more mature. Got this from Andrew Tate, where he's like, you know, a lot of people hated him, and, like, there was a lot of hatred and a lot of things going on for him for when he said depression isn't real. He doesn't believe in it. And I understand what he means by that. He said, he goes by, I don't believe in it, and I don't believe in anything that takes power from me. So if I'm going to say I am depressed, that means I'm putting myself into a position or a state of mind that I am in, and I can't escape it. I am depressed, so now I need pills, right? Like, that's how I was feeling, like, being on Adderall, everything like that. Like, no, he's super hyper, so he needs this pill. Like, no, like, I can control it. I know I can control it because I've been doing it for these years now. You know, like, I am who I am. I outgrown it because of the process of what I did. So I started to realize this, and man, you know, like, a lot of people hated Andrew Tate for saying that, but I full on agree with him, and I know what he says, right? A lot of people who say they're depressed, everything like that, they're mostly depressed because they never go outside, they never have conversations. You know, you're not doing the things that your body needs to do, right? They're not eating healthy. A lot of these people that say that they're depressed, they live indoors with no shade, you know, no sunlight. They're just fucking playing video games all day, eating garbage. Like, how are you not gonna feel depressed or sad or anything like that? You're not gonna feel good from doing these things. You're not talking to people. You're not having human interactions. You're just on the mic like a little virgin screaming at each other, you know, like kids, right? Once they say, oh, I think I'm depressed, I want to go to the doctor, and I want them to give me these pills. And not knowing the side effects from these pills, that things can happen. Do you understand? Like, really, things could happen to you, bro. Like, I lost, like, I'd say, like, 30 pounds from this shit, from taking Adderall. I remember losing weight. I was super fucking skinny. I felt like a bony kid. I wasn't saying, like, I was a weak, fragile kid. I was still mixing up with somebody, but it was just like, bro, like, what the fuck is going on? You know, like, that's just what it came down to. I'm like, bro, what the fuck is really happening to me, bro? Like, why am I like this right now? There was a lot of things that was going like that. That anxiety shit, that shit was nothing to play with. That anxious shit where you can't eat food, you're feeling worried about where you at, and just, like, shit like that. It's like, bro, you know, I never knew the word for anxiety until I got older. I was like, that is what the feeling I was feeling. Real shit, it was anxious. So to wrap up this video, guys, all I want to say is that it's a journey. It's a battle that you might have to deal with, but honestly, I'd say you have to learn from your mistakes, right? Like I said, when I was in school, I was always in trouble, everything like that, but I've learned from that. I learned that I can't act in certain ways. I can't do certain things. I can't, you know, I have to sometimes, you know, refrain from doing what I got to do. I have to sometimes refrain myself and, like, realize and visualize, like, look, you can't do this at this certain moment, so, you know, maybe later on you can, right? And it's a battle that you have to face, and like I said, you have to focus on. And, you know, honestly, if I could say my best advice would be, is if you're going on Adderall and it's perfectly fine for you, don't have any, like, negative side effects or whatever, then keep doing it, and keep doing it for, you know, I'd say just keep doing it. I'd say just keep using it for a little while, honestly, but I do not want my viewers to be dependent on a pill, like, in the point where, oh, like I said with my sister, you know, she's like, oh, I have to take this pill, in order for me like to focus so I can get a good grade on this class or in this on this test or something like that. So if you're in that one of those situations, you're realizing like you're only doing good because of this, I'd say hop off and really try to see how you can do without it, right? Like realize what you can do without it. And you know, it's a battle that you have to face. But if you're going through withdrawals and having a lot of fucking side effects, I'd say get off of it. Honestly, like that's my honest advice, where I'd say you should get off of it. If you're losing weight, if you're you know, you don't feel yourself, you don't feel good, you're having anxiety, everything like that, I'd much rather feel like who I am than, you know, try to sacrifice myself, my mental health, my body, and my brain for to get better grades in school or whatever, right? Like whatever your case may be, you can't focus on certain things, okay, whatever. But for the majority of people, it would be school. So I wouldn't rather you just, you know, give up on school. I'd say you really just focus, try your best to really focus, and, you know, say that you can do it. Don't like I said with the Andrew Tate, don't take power away from you. You could do this, you could focus, you could do it if you put your mind to it. So if you guys like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'm gonna leave a video right here if you want to check out my latest video.